Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. It's 6:31 right now. And if you join us in the pledge with Marquette Township Board.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is a regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you for joining us. Randy, if you want to do roll call.
Okay. Trustee Everson is excused and absent this evening. Trustee Marks.
Present.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Winslow.
Present.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattara is here, and Supervisor Duran.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Kangas. Our attorney Roger Zapp is here. Our Superintendent of Public Works Lenny Bodinas is here, and our Fire Chief Dan Shanahan is here.
Great, thank you. Any public comment before we start the meeting? Okay. We'll just need approval then of the consent agenda, first of all, excuse me, which tonight consists of approval of regular meeting minutes of April 5th, 2022. We have bills payable in the amount of $174,725.09. We have the March Sheriff's Department Activity Report, an Election Commission draft minutes of April 5th, and a Marquette County Solid Waste Management partial meeting packet of April 20th, and charter communication, of course, from April 5th. We also have March 2022 financial statement.
Move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest with this agenda, so unless anybody wants to make any changes, we could approve the remainder.
I'll move to accept the regular agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, staff reports up first. Fire Department, March 2022.
Good evening. You have your report, my report in front of you, and I'll just hit a few of the highlights, and obviously if you have any questions, please ask. Numbers are up a little bit so far this year. I think they're up approximately 15%. We did have, we'll just get into a call we had at the snowmobile trail off the gorge. I'd just like to compliment everybody who was there. The firefighters that were there did an excellent job. It was sort of a rope technical rescue / back in the woods, but the guys did an excellent job. The membership also did get a chance to escort the hockey team out of town for the state playoffs. They did that with City Fire and Chocolate Township Fire. They had a good game, but just didn't pull it through. We had grants and donations. We are applying for the Michigan Power Plan. We're looking to get backup cameras for the ambulances and possibly one of the pickups, the older pickups. I did attend, if everybody remembers the flood in 2003. We, ever since then, I guess it's Merck, Randy might know better. I think they were Merck, now requires them to do a emergency action plan every 5 years. And that was pretty interesting to attend, and that was at Northern, and obviously anybody that's along the Dead River participated. The friends of that snowmobile accident victim, or patient I should say, did stop in, bought the members lunch, brought us in some pizzas and a bunch of snacks, and we had a lot of good conversation. It was sort of a healing process for them and for some of the members too. And we've emailed back and forth a little bit, and that patient happens to be doing a lot better. He's been down in Chicago. I'm not sure of the rehab facility, but he's up and walking and playing with tennis balls now in his hands. And we've been pretty busy, and I know Lenny too. We have our ISO inspection on May 4th, and that's a fire and water supply system inspection by the Insurance Service Organization. And that happens every 5 years.
piece of cake, right? Dan?
Yeah, and the new pickup is in. We haven't, yeah, we'll probably be looking for a check sometime at the next board meeting or whatever, but we don't have the invoice yet.
Looking for a check?
Well, yes. We will be looking, we're looking for an invoice too, and we'll probably get that tomorrow. I just late tonight got a text, so it was 10 o'clock.
You still have to put on all the insignias.
Correct, yeah, and we're still a month away probably from putting it on the road. It needs to be striped yet, and as soon as I heard that, because we didn't know when it was gonna come in, I scheduled it the day I heard that it was in with Elcom, and I'm hoping 3 weeks they can get it in, and then they'll probably have it for a couple days. So then, and we also gotta get it striped yet too.
Good.
Any
Any
questions? on
questions
anything?
for the chief? Okay.
Thank you.
sir.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Public Works. We have Superintendent in person tonight. He's gonna be a busy guy
In
tonight.
person, yes. I'm gonna have, my voice is gonna be gone by the time the night's done. So for solid waste, we have started the first Wednesday rubbish drop-off again, and we have some controls that we had talked about last winter in effect. So far, after just our first Wednesday, things went pretty well. We filled up 3 dumpsters. That's significantly less than what was previously was happening in other months here. So hopefully that will kind of keep going out throughout the year while we're open, and we can keep that rate down. So every dumpster that we fill, we have to pay for. So hopefully if we can keep that level down, we'll be doing good. Per our contract, and you're gonna see this later on in the night, our garbage hauler has requested a 5.9% COLA. That is provided in the contract, so you will see that coming back up on the agenda here again tonight. For wastewater, we have drawn up plans for sewer cleaning, so we've kind of been going through our maps and figuring out what we need to do, what needs to be done first. And so you will see us out here as soon as the road restrictions go off, out there trying to get some of our sewers cleaned and trying to get that done and before all the major construction, everything kind of hits into the summer. We're also doing manhole inspections too, so that's something good that we can get out there and do with the road restrictions being on and some snow still out. We can get in there and look at the manholes and kind of figure out what's gonna have to be cleaned. So we've been ongoing doing that. The Center Street generator plans are complete, so you should see that coming up here within the next couple meetings. Hopefully they're gonna get ready and go out for bid here pretty soon. For water, for the big one, we're gonna be looking for an invoice and some money here pretty soon too with our hydro excavator. So that was delivered a few weeks ago. We kind of played around with it a little bit out behind the building, and it's gonna be really good for this service line inspection that we have to do. So you might see us kind of out in the back playing around. We're not playing out there, we're actually kind of learning how it works and things that we have to do. So anybody's welcome to come over and see it in action, and we'll even let you play with the little joystick, and we're still kind of learning how that goes. We might tether it to your body, because that's our greatest fear. We're going to lose this thing down in the manhole, and there's $400 for that thing. But yeah, so anyhow, that thing does, we do got it, and once everything starts opening up, we hope to get rolling out there right away, doing that service line inspection. We have a new hydrant ordered for the one that was broken on Bancroft. There was one that froze and kind of cracked the barrel, so it's an older Traverse City type of hydrant, so we're going to be replacing it with the new East Jordan. We placed our order, but from what we've been hearing, I mean, these things are weeks and weeks and weeks out, so hopefully we'll get something by, I don't know, June, maybe July, and we'll be able to get that in. Starting today, Manager Kangas and myself, we attended the UP Spring Water Conference. It's technically in Escanaba, but we were able to do it remotely here, so which is kind of nice. We've been, the subjects have been, even with this lead service line and a lot of the grants and stuff that are out there and coming up, and hopefully we'll get on the list or get some of that money, but it's not looking too promising for now. That kind of segues me into this other part. So we did put a notice of intent for both water and wastewater. We did get on the list for water, but we're pretty low on the points. There's a lot of these points in the calculus is weighted towards the bigger communities downstate. So that's just the way it is. But that's not saying that something can't happen and we can get moved up in the list of the points. For the sewer side, we put our notice of intent, and we've been working with our consultant. And one of the things that has to be done is we have to have a public hearing done on this, on the application. We are not obligated, you know, the board's not obligated to do anything, and this is just kind of part of the process to get on, you know, keep going forward on the list. So we're looking to have a public hearing somewhere around, I believe it's the 27th, and then we're gonna have to look for a board meeting, because the board has to also kind of approve us moving forward in this process. Again, it's not obligating us to any project, we're not obligating, it's just to keep moving in the process. So you will see that come through. I believe there were some emails going back and forth on that here, so just kind of giving you a heads up.
May
I'll try to get.
23rd, Lenny.
What's that?
May 23rd
Oh,
would be that
23rd?
public hearing.
Oh,
And then
okay.
the board would have to have a special meeting later that week to pass a resolution. I can't tell you off the top of my head what exactly that resolution says, but we'll get you prepped for it well before then.
Yeah.
So we can't have it on the 5-4 meeting. I was thinking we had to do it before the 6-1 deadline. We
It
have
has-
to have it after the public hearing?
Yeah, it has to after the public meeting, but before the
June.
deadline,
Okay.
the June, yeah.
Is it before June 1? So we
believe so.
have 2 regular meetings, then we wouldn't need a special meeting. That
Yeah.
was, I interpreted that wrong. My apologies.
So we'll be able to do it the last meeting in May then?
First or
That'll be the
second?
17th. But does the resolution have to be done after the public hearing?
I believe it does,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
So that we're looking at a public hearing on the what was it?
Monday?
I know there was a bunch of.
Monday, the 23rd.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, it was the 23rd.
Okay,
That's
so,
after the last meeting. isn't it?
yeah, so we'll have to have a special
Special
meeting.
meeting.
That's what I was trying to figure out, because it has to be before the 1st.
So it has to be after the public,
hearing,
the
right?
public hearing,
And then the special meeting to adopt the resolution.
yes, before the June deadline.
So we could have a special meeting the day after if we can work it in.
Yes.
So,
It would have to be sometime that week, later that week.
so we could put that on the next agenda, to schedule that, right?
Why can't you have the public hearing
And then have the meeting.
and then have the
Same
the
day.
resolution the same meeting? We've done that before.
Wasn't it like 6 o'clock, I think, was the public hearing?
Well, you can have the
Yes.
public hearing and then you can you can schedule that all in the same meeting
Yeah.
if you want. Right, Roger? I think you could do that.
Well, assuming that the criteria
Is met.
doesn't have some type of a waiting period in there. I haven't seen the instructions on it. In theory, you could do that, but there may be something that says you have to have a 24 or a 48-hour waiting period in between. Without reviewing the documents, I couldn't say.
We
We'll
can,
verify that
Yeah.
before we ask you to schedule something.
I'll try to get verification like tomorrow or the next
Okay.
day here, so.
We can try to get it on the 5-4 meeting then.
Okay. And again, this doesn't commit us to anything, it's just to say that we're willing to move forward in the process here.
We could go through this entire process and not get funded anyway.
Right.
Doesn't
In
hurt
fact,
to
it's
try,
looking
though.
very likely that that could be the reality.
But if
Just
we don't
based
go
on-
through and do it,
We won't know.
we won't know that either.
Right.
Correct. And the reason we chose to do it now was because of all of the infrastructure money that's out there. So we might even find out that they have enough money to fund our project and decide that we can pay for it ourselves, but it's too early to tell.
A lot of people on the list, sometimes a lot of these places drop out of the list and everybody else moves up. So, I mean, that happens all the time, and communities who didn't think they were gonna get anything, get something. So it's definitely worth following the process through. Building and grounds, they have been busy cleaning up the highway tunnel, so we did have some stuff that was in the tunnel, and we were getting that cleaned up. Unfortunately, Andy wasn't able to pressure wash it off. So, he did find some paint that's actually anti-graffiti paint that we're gonna be able to put up there, and theoretically, everything should wash right off. So we're gonna end up repainting that whole tunnel. The price isn't gonna be astronomical, it'll be, I don't know how much, I think he said $300 or $400 or something for all the paint, so. But he did go there, we got as much of everything cleaned off as we could, and we're gonna really try to keep up on that more inspection and make sure that there's not things like that there anymore, so. And,
Lenny,
we
what was on the walls?
a
I don't
lot
think
of
it's
not nice
appropriate
things.
to
I mean, they just paint, you know,
Yes, yeah,
whatever.
yeah. And so then there was also people doing like burnouts and stuff down there, so we're gonna try to figure out a way to keep vehicles.
Do we
and
have
stuff.
cameras on that?
We are also investigating that. The problem there, of course, is internet. We don't, so we're investigating, is there a way that we can get some kind of remote internet with cameras there as well? So he is checking on that, we're getting quotes, we're getting ideas what we could do there.
I thought that was all part of that, to have cameras on that.
It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so that's just with the internet. We're gonna probably have to try to figure out something like with the wireless hotspot or something like their cell hotspot or something to try to hook something up.
Well, Lenny, you can do like trail cam, kind of like trail cams where you can put a card in there
Yep.
and if you find the event happen, then at least you have some time.
Yeah.
for it
Yeah,
on the
we're
rights.
investigating every, different things that we can do there, so I know he's working on different types of cameras, trying to figure out. And then we're also working at, if we're allowed to, we're gonna have to check to make sure it doesn't impede anything. We want to try to put one of those, kind of like how they have in the bike pass, that removable, like bollard thing that you can put there. Just to prevent vehicles and stuff from getting down there and doing whatever, so. But, good news is that he did find some paint for relatively cheap and stuff that should work, and we'll be able to get everything cleaned up there pretty fast. So,
John, go ahead.
You just might take a look at what they did in our neighboring township. They put posts in, they put a camera in, and they have a monitor that is monitored by someone on an hourly basis in their police department.
yeah, we'll definitely check that out and see what they do. You're talking about like over in Chocolate Township?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll check that out and see what they're doing, and maybe we'll get some ideas and be able to keep better track of it here.
We gave that information when the tunnel was first proposed, but it wasn't included with the tunnel, but it should have been.
One good thing, he was on it right away when somebody told him about it, so he was down there trying to scrub everything off, and he got a lot of the stuff cleaned up, but not totally. So we're gonna go there and make it right and make it look good again here, so.
Gotta love them
You know, yeah.
Was that it for this
That was it,
part?
yep.
So, any questions for Lenny? Just wanna make sure I didn't cut you off.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Frank. Mr. Frank. Frank Zappa was the first concert I went to in high school. And that's all I think about when I see you. Roger, please.
Check to make sure your mic's on, Roger. I don't
It
know.
is.
Okay.
Well, since the last monthly report, had a number of things cross my desk, including the updated Lions Field use agreement that we had a couple revisions back and forth. We finalized the Riverside Auto Tax Tribunal settlement here within the last week and a half to 2 weeks. And I reviewed the Raftelis contract that's on your agenda, which appears satisfactory from a legal perspective at least, and the water demand analysis contract as well. I only today finished the DPW roof repair contract and sent over some minor recommended revisions, and also the architect, the engineer was didn't give us complete information. There's an exhibit on insurance and bonds that we're waiting for, and that's a fairly critically important part of any contract of that size, to just assure that all the parties have adequate coverage for things that could or might go wrong. We've been on that side of that argument in the past over the years. So as soon as that comes through, we should be able to move forward with that one. I did a little bit of research regarding periodic reaffirmation of the fire department membership that we discussed at the last meeting. And we had a question come up on a liquor license procedure that as well during the last couple of weeks. And I'm probably overlooking something, but those are some of the items that came to mind as I was jotting some notes this afternoon.
It's a pretty good list. Any questions for our attorney? Okay, thank you very much. Community linkage. Anybody hearing anything from the public or talking to neighbors? Linda?
So I had someone call me in regards to Walmart giving the city police department $4,000 as a grant.
You saw that too.
I had someone call me, and I don't know if there's anything we should be doing about that, but the person was very unhappy to have them thinking, or however this worked, that the city police respond to Walmart. And that's not the case, right?
Right, and the
And we pay for the county sheriff extra money and the county sheriff. So I don't know. I don't know what we'd like to do about that, or if mentioning it is enough.
I think we can mention it, but we can't tell someone where they give their money to.
Right, but we could remind them who services them. But maybe not.
Just don't shop there if you don't like it, I guess.
You don't want to start that.
I think it maybe was just a little bit of a misunderstanding as to who provides their service, would be my idea.
Did they say what it was for?
They did not, I don't think.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They just said $4,000 to the Marquette Police Department. That was it.
Wouldn't a letter be an appropriate message to send to Walmart?
No, we're not
We have to
at all.
make sure how we word that letter.
Maybe the sheriff should do the letter.
Be careful, be careful.
Yeah, I don't know.
Walmart does help when we have their pickup or cleanup. They do help us with different funds. They've given us material for cleaning up and also some food and that, so just be careful.
Maybe the city did do
Well,
something.
that's the point. I think somehow either that or a visit with Walmart, because I think they're just missing the thought that when they call for security, they get the county sheriff. They don't get they don't get Marquette Police Department.
Did it say why the police department received that?
Nothing, nothing.
Okay.
I don't know, I think we keep our nose out of it.
I agree, like I said, if I wanted to give $5,000 to Chocolate Township, I mean, it's
It's up to you.
up to me. The resident can be upset, but that's,
Too bad, I don't know.
I think we have to keep it. I don't know, but
We're aware of it now.
we're aware of it, try, opportunity ever comes out, we kind of just address it in a very polite way, and that's about
But it
what
didn't
we-
say what the
What it was
4,000
for.
was
No,
for.
no.
All right, so you could mean for something else in the police department, you know?
and who knows what it's for.
Yeah.
They say, unless we have more information, I wouldn't go any
Doesn't
much
involve
further.
us. Okay, it's good information though, Linda. Thanks for sharing. I was just gonna give you a heads up that the Downtown Development Authority of our township has a draft development plan. And we looked at that at the last meeting, is it last week or 2 weeks ago? Lose track of time too fast.
Last Tuesday.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay. I thought staff did an outstanding job on it. For them, I'm sure it was very easy to throw stuff together with maps and charts and stuff, but they did a great job. And one of the things that they compiled was a little chart that some of you saw today at the Road Commission meeting. We had a joint meeting with Marquette County Road Commission to just kind of hash out things that we each need to know. And I had supplied that chart to the engineer manager of the road commission so that he could kind of address any of the points that involved him with extending roads, non-motorized trail road type things, and if we talked at great length about the corridor and how that plays into the DDA and the township board's importance, and So I just wanted you to let you know that you will be seeing a plan. We're gonna meet again in, it's probably 5 weeks from now, I believe it was 6 weeks off, to kind of finalize that, so that we'll be coming back to you at some point with some interesting items in there, so I just wanted to share that with you. The other thing I did want to point out is in the Marquette County Solid Waste Management, I did mention some of the items last time. Their meeting is tomorrow, and their last meeting talked about the landfill will start receiving Delta County's single-stream recycling in mid to late fall. If you remember, they did sign a kind of a template type agreement with them to see what would be involved in including other counties in the recycling program. Glass Aggregate Road Project will start in the summer of '22 with Dickinson County Road Commission. Michigan Tech is working with them to build a road, so that's kind of interesting. It's going to be funded in part by Next Cycle Michigan. And let's see, Michigan, I mentioned last time, Michigan Tech is advancing plastics to break it down, to dissolve it back to its original form, and then sell the resins back to manufacturers directly. So Tech is really getting on the bandwagon with recycling. It's amazing. They're working really well with our solid waste authority. And the authority's website's averaging 10,000 visitors a month. So hopefully they're going to Recycle 906 to see what to do with their batteries or what to do with their any of their waste. I did email Brad this afternoon and said, Brad, what are people putting in their recycling that should not be there? Because I thought that would be the easiest way to tell people what not to do. Plastic bags, any of the Walmart, Target, Meijer plastic bags, Super One, wherever you're getting those plastic bags, do not put them in your recycling blue bucket, blue tote, whatever it is. They're getting caught in the machine and causing lots of problems, as you can imagine. Any sharps issues need to be handled separately. Any kind of needles or anything that you use for any medications. Batteries are fire hazard. Don't throw them in your blue recycling tote. It's got to be taken somewhere, to the co-op, to Goodwill, St. Vinny's. We had that list, and I cut it out at home and I stuck it right on my cabinet of where to take all your recycling batteries. If people don't know, call me. I will tell you where to get it. Otherwise, it was in the back of the calendars the last few months.
Letting on needles, I was told that if you have a needle, put it inside of a plastic bottle and throw it in your garbage.
Sure, okay. I don't know. It just says return them to the pharmacy. And I guess I didn't say.
I don't think sharps are supposed to go into the landfill, period.
I wouldn't think so.
Well, a police officer told me that, and another township told me that.
Maybe in the past, maybe more with our
Well,
recycling.
this was this week, so I mean, it's
Oh.
yeah. They said you take it and you put it in a pop bottle, because we found one in Harvey at the Easter egg hunt. A kid brought it up and and I had it in the trailer. So I asked the police department, Scott, he said, put it inside of a plastic bottle and throw it away in your garbage. So we should clarify that, get that.
Well, he's saying, Brad is saying, go to recycle906.com, and they'll tell you how to dispose of any sharps container type stuff. In general, do not place items in a bin that have food waste on them, which makes sense. My husband says, here I am spending water rinsing out all these
Exactly.
containers, some people are putting them in their dishwashers. You don't have to be that diligent, but take a paper towel and just wipe it out a little bit so that you don't have pieces of chicken and pieces of pasta going into the recycling, it
You
just
really
makes a
can't do that,
mess.
because when you got dressings and stuff like that, you can't put a towel inside of that thing and
Well, it
clean it out.
depends.
You put-
Those you can rinse
What
out.
you do, you take soap, you put it in there, shake it up,
Yeah,
rinse it.
that's what I do. Milk cartons too. Get the milk out of there. Rinse off the lid.
When you mean a paper towel, you want to pass.
Oh,
that.
yeah, paper towel,
That's right.
thank you. And he's got 3 exclamation points. No diapers, please. Don't put your diapers into recycle.
Hear that, Pete?
Loose
I almost said
recyclables.
something, but I'm glad I didn't.
Loose recyclables in your bin are best. Don't put them in plastic bags. He says, thanks and have a great night.
I think some of those we can, put them as notes on our next.
Yeah, that's why I
insert
printed
in
it.
that,
Yep,
so.
yep, those are good. We can have
And if you
it.
put anything more on, about recycle, make sure you put in there, don't put out a half of a
Yes.
container. Make sure it's full.
Good point.
Because I talked to the garbage people and I asked them again, and so a lot of people only put a little bit in the bottom of it. And I told them, I said, push it back, don't take it.
Well, don't be doing that. We have a contract with those people, because that's North Country. This is 906. They're two different things, even though they're
But
working
it's
together.
the same principle.
Yeah. Okay, so, good. I would just want to give you that recycling heads up. DPW structural improvements, our roof. I was wondering where we are with the roof.
I have a question with what Roger said, and I'm going through this document, there's a lot of blank places in there, and that. Should we be addressing it to a motion tonight or not? That's the question.
Don?
You've passed motions over and over and over again, subject to the attorney's final review. I think you can do it in this case, knowing full well that Lenny and I will not authorize anything to happen without Roger's concerns being addressed. They're significant enough in this case that we need to make sure they're addressed before the contract gets signed.
There's a lot in here that isn't filled out.
Yeah, it's really two sections. One needed a clarification, and another one is missing. So,
Roger was gonna address it.
A couple of those sections are intentionally left blank, that if we want to add something that's not in the general contract there are the general contract provisions, which are A 201-217, and then there's the specific 11-page short contract that's specific to this township is the A 101-2017 version. Some of those blanks are intentional because the topic is covered in the general provisions that weren't in the board packet. There are a couple, however, that do need to be filled in, and probably the most critical one that's not completed is the township needs to designate the owner representative for the township. In other words, the person who will be contacted when questions come up. And I suggested this afternoon when I sent over some language that should be inserted, that we may wish to also have a mandatory copy to a second person whenever comments or communications are being made. It doesn't matter who that is necessarily, but that's critical that that be inserted. I'm trying to think of an example, but there are a couple of the ones that we really don't need to fill in because it's covered in the general terms.
Okay, that was going through there were a
Yeah.
lot of blanks in there, so. And the one thing you brought up was insurance and bonds, I tried to look for that, there was nothing there.
Correct. And it's not in the thick version that you don't have either. It's supposed to be an Exhibit A, and they inadvertently didn't send us Exhibit A from the engineer's office, apparently.
but we can dictate to them what we want those limits to be as well, and make it easier.
That was my question.
And one other minor revision, since you haven't seen that yet, that I'm recommending at least, is there's a choice between arbitration or litigation for disputes, and the arbitration box was checked, and I have no objection to that whatsoever. That's frequently quicker and cheaper. But in my experience, having the arbitration administered by the American Arbitration Association is cumbersome and problematic. I haven't used them in several years. We can still follow the American Arbitration Association's rules and guidelines that they publish. Those are pretty good. But to actually have them administer the arbitration, Marquette is a little bit too remote for them. They have no idea where we are if you try to communicate with them, and they want to lump us in with Detroit.
Everyone does.
I just have a question, looking through here, there's a recommended motion down here. Have you seen it, Roger? To make sure it's covered correctly so that we got everything set?
I don't know.
Yes,
that
I wrote it up as a pending attorney review approved DPW structural approval proposal from Hall Contracting for the amount of $164,270 and authorize the supervisor to sign the agreement.
Is that sufficient, Roger? Because that was my concern, to make sure everything goes back to you and the,
I think so,
Yeah.
because the only thing I'm waiting for anything on right now is the insurance and the bonds. I've addressed everything else that I saw that came to my attention in it. So there's not too much more review that I'm anticipating, at least, is going to happen even at this point. So I think that's a satisfactory motion.
So moved.
I'll support it.
Okay. Any other questions for Lenny, or did
No,
you
I
have
had
any
enough.
more
I got enough
comments, Lenny? Anything to add?
No, we're glad to get this done and get this behind us. It's could, if we get a heavy winter, this could turn into a real problem. So we want to get this done now before prices start going up. So if you look at the price, it's significantly less than what we thought initially. Now, things they could run into something, so we would still have to come back to you if something changes and the price goes up or something happens like that. So depending what they run into in the road.
Ernie?
Will our staff have to move things out of the way when they're over there?
Yes, so primarily it's gonna be in the old fire hall part of the building. So we're gonna end up moving everything out probably into the newer parts. We're gonna have things stacked up and probably have, people with desks and stuff either in the very back part of the building or maybe even the garage in the back or something. We'll have to figure something out, but all that stuff is gonna have to come out of there so they can do their work. But they don't have to tear off the roof, so hopefully everything can be done from underneath, or I think they're talking about the front of the building, sliding beams and stuff, or new purlings and stuff in from there, so that helped keep the costs down.
Anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, 8B, OHM Water Demand Analysis Proposal.
Okay, back when we were talking about the strategic plan and stuff, one of the things that the board had talked about is potentially approaching the city about acquiring an ownership stake in the city water plant. And I know there were some preliminary discussions taken at the higher levels about that. It was agreed that we're gonna have to, everybody's gonna have to get some data to know if it's feasible, we just need to know some information. So one of the big the issues is the water demand. Exactly how much water will we need? How much water do we have available here? How much will we need in terms of future growth if things happen? So we did talk to OHM and we got a proposal from them about, for our water demand analysis. And that's gonna look at all kinds of various different aspects of our water system, what we might need in the future, potential growth, if there's potential growth, and how much we would need for water here. We also do have a representative from OHM here too. If you have any more questions for him, he can help answer those as well.
I'll move to accept the proposal for the water demand analysis as presented by OHM for not to exceed amount of $38,500 and authorize the supervisor to sign the agreement.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and support. Ernie?
No, the timeframe I'm looking at, they're looking at October of this year and that, to complete it and that. As if there's nothing else, no other problems in that. Along with this, when you talk about this, it also goes hand in hand with the next one coming, the water supply evaluation. And they're talking also about looking at what's available in the city and us and everything. So do these two go together, kind of hand in hand?
Yes, yeah, they will. So they'll be able to, these are all the points of data that we're gonna need to make a sound decision. So yeah, it's all part of the same issue, and it's gonna provide both us and the city with data that we need to make good decisions.
So is this disruptive to you, or is it all field work? Can you? staff does that?
Basically, they're gonna primarily be looking at data that will provide them from our MORs, other data that we have. So it won't be They're just, you're gonna basically be looking for information from us, and they'll be able to go with our raw data and then figure out what they need to figure out from it.
Is that, are you familiar with the township, or do you have to drive around, or scope it out, or measure, or anything?
General familiarity of the township, we'll have to get some more information from Lenny as far as like where the water system is located.
Use the mic, please.
There's a lot of information that's already been provided to us, and Lenny had shared a 2013 report from GPI.
Stantec.
Stantec, yeah.
The water system, so we'll be able to help to utilize that to learn an understanding of the township water system, and work with the township as well to develop some of those population estimates which will be occurring. We shouldn't have to do any physical field work for this. It'll mainly just be collecting the information from Lenny and gathering that information and then generating some models to help with future analysis.
Linda?
So we'll be doing some, I would maybe call this field work and figuring out some things and getting a report back. Will the city on their side be doing the same?
For this particular analysis, this is gonna be primarily just for a township.
So it's
what
just
we're
for
gonna-
us?
Yeah, what we're gonna need out here.
We need to determine what percentage of the water treatment plant we would like to purchase if the city ends up allowing us to do so. That's what this OHM study is for. How much water will we need to purchase from them? And that will tell us what percentage of the treatment plant's capacity we need to own.
Same as the wastewater treatment facility.
Developing a future analysis of what we need.
Yeah, and if you look closely at the various tasks in there, one of the most expensive is the biggest unknowns currently, and that's what's gonna happen in the next 20 years. We just talked about it with the road commission only an hour or two ago, right? There's potentially some big things happening. How do you estimate that? How do you project it conservatively so that we don't end up shorting ourselves and then have to go back to the city and ask for more? There's a lot of unknowns in there. We have a master plan, but we already know that there's potential for things to come that exceed what the master plan calls for. So these are all the things that have to go into the study that OHM would do for us if you authorize this contract.
Any other questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, so then we go to the Raftellus side.
So this is the second part of this. This will be a water supply evaluation. So basically, it's gonna help determine what the water plant is worth. So the study is gonna look at, the various data from, this one, we're probably gonna have to get the city involved to provide some data for this one. I did send an email off, so just let them know we're looking at these studies after preliminary contact had been made. So they do know that this is coming. At least I sent it to Mark O'Neill over there. So this one will help us, give us understanding what the valuation is, and they also will give possible governance scenarios for consideration by both the city and the township. So this would be this is the second half of all that data that we need to get together.
Okay, Ernie?
Going back to Lyndon's question on city involvement, will they have any involvement with the cost? Would they be able to support any of the cost?
We might be able to answer that one, Lenny.
Okay.
We can do the best job we can to present our argument, and they should do the same.
Okay, that's fine.
And then we negotiate if we're not at the same place. We purposely chose a consultant that both municipalities have already worked with on this very subject from a contract water purchase perspective. But they also can do the valuation on the infrastructure itself to determine what the value is based on the percentage we need.
Spoken like a true engineer.
Sorry, was it
Makes
that
sense.
boring?
No, it makes sense.
I was teasing him about being an engineer today too,
Yeah.
so.
Well, the board's always wanted one, so that's good.
There's another optional task, the undated calculations that it could go up to $5,000. I'm trying to read in here what they would be doing that would cost us additional dollars.
Yeah, I know.
Something that they couldn't anticipate when preparing a proposal to us, because you'd never know everything up front, or they would have just given it to us and we would have written them a check.
Best you got, so we have to go with it. And that's-
You have to
Yeah,
do
you
the
don't
study
know.
and the analysis to know what you're looking at.
Any other questions?
I'll move Lynn to accept the Reftelis water supply evaluation proposal for not to exceed amount of $30,000 and authorize the supervisor to sign the agreement.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks again. Okay, North Country Disposal COLA request, as you mentioned before.
Okay, so when I was looking, through the contract, the COLA section, well, first, North Country Disposal has sent us a request for a COLA for 5.9%. This is not a fuel surcharge, that could be a separate charge, so this is just purely a COLA. I can't remember off the top of my head where they're getting the 5.9%. It's one of the government inflation things that they use. But they came with 5.9%. In the contract, it states that the Marquette Township Board has to approve it as well. So that's why I'm bringing it to you.
And that COLA number does closely parallel the Social Security increase for this year. Prior years have been the same, so when Social Security was low, their COLA was low.
So I believe last year came in at around 1.3%. So, the price, we're seeing it all over, so this is a part of it.
It's a pleasure.
Well, we have to approve it, because
Yes.
otherwise we're gonna breach the
All right.
contract, so.
I so move that, recommend the approval of the North Country Disposal 5.9% quota request.
In support.
And can I add one other thing? So we will have to, in the near future, look at our revenue coming in with this here. So just to kind of let everybody know, so I will be coming back with some other information because the costs are increasing, so we might have to do something with that too, so.
But in fairness to the township board, though, it's an unanticipated expenditure that isn't really directly related to us, it's to the hauler, increasing the rate.
I don't know that anyone could have anticipated an inflation rate this high when we were going through the budget process last year. So we'll just have to take a good conscious look at it and make a decision how we address this increased cost over what we budgeted.
So there could possibly be an increase in garbage, possibly.
This 5%, this is gonna be done monthly when we pay them.
Correct, yes.
It isn't one big lump sum, it's as we go.
Yes, so every month from last year, there's a 5.9% increase.
When does this
When does
start? I'm
it
trying to
start?
figure out when does this
January.
goes back to.
Oh, it goes way back.
January, right?
No, it goes back
No.
to March.
March?
Yeah,
So retroactive to March?
yeah.
Okay.
Another good reason to not put stuff out unless your
And that's one
stuff
thing.
is filled, okay?
That is one thing that we're trying to, I've sent some emails off, and we're gonna try to see if there's anything that can be done with that as well, to try to maybe help with some of the costs with that too. So part one was the first day rubbish, and that seems to be going pretty good, and then part two will be seeing if we can do something with the recycling here too.
And across the Upper Peninsula, recycling numbers have gone way up. Some people would like to say it's due to the bins that we all have. I would like to maybe think it's due to the education that we're providing. Lynn would like to say it's about 906 website.
Everything.
Yep, and so I think, again, we have a landfill that is making some money off recyclables. And, is that just going back into what is always the question.
I would assume paying debt.
It is. You can't assume. I mean, you don't have to assume. It was in one of their last packets. It was either this one or the one before, that anything, and that scared me because
They have that much debt.
they have a loss of 20,000 one month, then they have a gain of 70,000 the next month. And if they're taking the gains and automatically sending them to the debt, now you've got a problem, because by the end of the year, you might really be paying off more than you would to even break even. So I think they need to kind of, and I did suggest that to them, they need to kind of wait, especially since it's the first full year that they have data on. Or maybe do it twice a year. Not every month that they have gains should they be paying off that debt. I don't think. That was my 2 cents, but yeah, it is going back on the debt.
If it was township money in that consideration, I would agree we would be looking at it cautiously, and I would suspect that's probably what they're doing. But I guess I don't know. You read their packets far more detailed than I do.
They're an interest to me, what's happening to our money and our trash. Okay, we have motion and support. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I did ask Lenny if he wanted to run the meeting before we started, because he's got the whole agenda. Tire disposals next.
So this kind of goes in with our roof project. We have to make some room, and we have a lot of stuff hanging around. So we do have 8 unusable tires. We have 4 of them down at storage, and we have 6 of them up at our building. And we just want official approval to get rid of them. We're going to dispose of them. I don't know if it's 10 or 12 bucks a tire, whatever it takes to get rid of them. It's not going to be very much, but
10 tires, not 8.
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. 10. I had the 2 Zamboni. So, anyhow, yeah, we just want to get rid of them, and we just want official approval to get rid of them. We went down to a local tire shop. They cannot buy them from us or resell them due to liability issues, and we can't. I would assume we would run into the same issues if we tried to sell them, so it's just best to dispose of them, and they're not in very good shape anyhow.
Ernie?
I approve the proper disposal of 10 unusable tires.
Support.
Okay, motion and support.
Now I have a question.
Okay.
Why do we have them?
Took them off.
Well, the 4 that we did have, they came off of the old sheriff's car that we had gotten, and they were decent tires, but then the new vehicle that we have, they're totally different size, so we can't use them for anything. And then the other 4 tires were hanging around from an old truck that we had, and we just could never use those for anything. And then the Zamboni
Those were the
tires.
4 tires that were locked up in storage, but they are serving no purpose to us other than taking up space at this point. It's time to get rid of them, clean the slate of that issue.
Put them out in the corner and say free.
Can't do that. Let me
The
read.
pile will multiply overnight.
Let me read another line from the solid waste minutes. The scrap tire grant activities are paused in 2022. You might remember I mentioned a couple meetings ago that they're not going to be doing that at the solid waste this year. There's a company in Windsor, Ontario called Granulum who recycles tires for crumb rubber. The landfill had a meeting with them and Barman Farms today on recycling the tires at the landfill. Barman Farms would be contracted to haul the tires to Granulum's facility directly. There's a significant demand for crumb rubber, and it is good to have an outlet to recycle the tires. So they're gonna start sending them next month, but this is what they've already accumulated. So we're just kind of on pause for 2022, they said.
Yeah, I think we can get rid of them. It's not very much. It'll be pretty minimal, but this will make some room.
What are the local recyclers gonna do with them?
I think,
Gonna sell them to the
we might try to bring them to like a tire shop and just pay them 10 or 12 bucks, whatever it takes, they take tires, or whoever will take them. I assume they send them out for recycling or grinding up. I don't know exactly what they do, but they won't resell them, I know that.
They grind them up and put them on artificial turf fields. If you notice when you watch sports in the grass, artificial grass fields, when they slide, you see the black stuff coming out, that's ground up tires
From rubber.
from rubber.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Lenny?
Oh,
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed? We go home now.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming in
Have a good night.
person.
Thanks, Lenny.
Okay. Consider scheduling a special meeting for discussion of unanticipated revenue. Mr. Manager.
Well, we've discussed all of this previously, and we haven't made decisions on what to do with about 3/4 of our ARPA funds. We recently were notified and received our 2021 marijuana revenue to the tune of $56,000, but we also just had a meeting with the road commission that identified probably some potential significant costs. So now is as good a time as any to have the discussion about what we do with the rest of this money. The ARPA funding we have to spend by the end of 2026, but we have to determine what we're gonna spend it on by the end of 2024. So the sooner we figure out what we're gonna do with our 300,000 plus the 56 from marijuana revenue, the better. I think we can probably make a far more educated decision, knowing some of the big picture things we just discussed a little earlier. But we can't do it without scheduling a meeting.
Yeah. Can I
And I
just,
think the discussion would be a little too long at a board meeting, you know, we're here to
Yes.
conduct business, that's why I suggested.
It could add
discussion.
hours to this meeting.
Yeah. Linda?
so, I just want to interject that the planning commission, did discuss, having the capital improvement, requests come to us early in June. And so, they may, be interested in attending that too, to look at the money that, I know we had a lot of capital improvement requests, and that we had funded some, but not all. And certainly if we have extra money, we should be looking at what people are looking for.
Yeah, as long as it's a qualified expense.
Correct, as long as it's a qualified
Could
expense,
be a
so.
camera with a tunnel.
A camera for the tunnel.
You know, we got a big investment there, so.
So what, oh, John, sorry.
I would welcome, when we do have that meeting, that the staff gather together the facts about Forestville Road and the fact that it was a regular road like any other road in front of the house here in the township.
It is on the local road network. Pete and I just looked at the list right before the meeting. It is on there.
It was always on there. And it needs to be attended to when it can be. And I understand other things may prevent it being done right away. But I don't want it to be forgotten. And when we're looking at what to do with some extra money, before it gets taken away on every other issue, that it be set aside if necessary, so that it will get done like all the other roads were done.
My
that
personal
had the same
opinion is,
classification.
yeah, my personal opinion is we need to be earmarking $150,000 for Forestville Road, regardless of how that happens, knowing that there's some potential things coming that may suggest we spend it in a different way than our current plan.
Thank you.
It'll be on the list to discuss. So what's your pleasure?
I do agree with Linda, though, with probably the planning commission would probably be, if we can do some CIP projects of loss or qualified expense, maybe that would help also. So, I mean, we don't have to do it like right away, we have time. But this 2024 is 2 years out yet.
But staff kind of needs to know where to direct their efforts, and if it's something that's gonna be grant-related, where, you know, we're gonna
Yeah.
accumulate money, they need to know what to do with it. We do have to establish too, by 24, by 2 years, but
Yeah.
what we're gonna do with it, I think the manager would like to know. What were you gonna say,
Right.
John?
Right now, it's safe.
Yeah,
It's not going anywhere. But the ARPA funding has a deadline, so that's the biggest thing. The marijuana money, we could sit on it for a rainy day as long as you want, but it is unanticipated revenue. If the township board has a specific purpose they would like to designate it for, then we as staff should know that.
and maybe the meeting will determine we're not ready to decide yet.
And
But
that's fine,
I think we
too.
need to at least
And-
give you an opportunity to figure
And
out.
that's a good thing.
It's much better than the
It's
alternative.
good to have some money in the bank for things that are going to come up, until we decide that that's exactly what we want to spend it on. Not just willy-nilly on some issue that people have as a high on their agenda.
Not extra, but, I mean, we have, there's a lot of, there's several projects that we could do that we couldn't afford to do it before, so.
And both of these sources are one-time sources as
Right.
well. We may get marijuana money in the future, but we can't guarantee it'll be 56,000 per license. We don't know if we'll always have a license. We may end up with two, but it could be two equals 32,000 each, or whatever the number ends up being. The statistics say the revenue shoots up in the first couple years and then it drops off. So we can't anticipate this in future years. We almost don't even want to budget for it, and when we do get it, then decide what our plan's gonna be for it.
We take it when we get it, other than that, it's just out in
Yeah.
the never land.
And I don't want to just receive this money and not tell you about it, so that at the end of the year, it can look like I did a good job with the budget. I'm not gonna take credit where I didn't do.
Besides, it's posted on the internet that we got it.
So, next week, 2 weeks,
I'll be out of town until the 3rd of May.
coming back on the 3rd?
I am to come to the board meeting.
Okay.
How about we do it on a planning commission night? So we could do like at a start at 5, they start at 7. So we could kind of, you know, then they don't have to.
When is that?
So there's
It's
one
the
on the 11th.
it's
May 11th or May 25th?
the 2nd and 4th Wednesday.
May 11th, May 25th would be better for me.
I'll be out of town on the 25th.
How about the 11th?
11th up here.
We can do it on the 11th if it's at like 5 o'clock or something like that.
That work for everybody?
11th is good.
Yeah.
Okay, at 5 o'clock?
Okay, so I'll make a
Is it
motion.
special or work?
It'll be a special
Special
meeting,
meeting,
just
yeah.
in case we want to make a motion that evening. So I'll make a motion to schedule a special meeting for the purpose of discussion of unanticipated revenue on May 11th at 5 o'clock.
Or
Any other questions, comments?
And let the planning commission know that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So, May 11th, Wednesday, PM. Thank you for that. All right, consider letter of understanding regarding township manager contract.
I can start on this, but it's a little bit of an awkward discussion coming from my perspective in that it ultimately affects my compensation potentially. And You may recall that this item did not come up on the attorney's list of things that he's worked on in the last couple of weeks, so he hasn't seen it, and he should see it before it gets signed. But the fact is, when my contract was written, the specific benefit being addressed is not clearly stated, but is being assumed by some. I don't feel comfortable with that, because if somewhere down the road, I get a good or better performance evaluation, and then it comes out that John got a performance bonus, and you didn't know I was getting it, it puts me in an awkward situation, even if members of the board felt it was following past practice. I would prefer it be clear in the contract, but the easiest way to do that is a letter of understanding. As of right now, all employees are entitled to a bonus under certain circumstances. Mine would be the only one that is performance-based.
In the professional administrative group, not the ASME group.
No, they do now.
ASME group too?
Yep.
That's good.
That was, you may recall, that was the whole longevity discussion.
Okay.
The longevity got moved out.
Yep.
Does that make sense to everybody, why we're bringing this up?
Yes, I think so.
And then at some point, whether it's year 5 or whatever, this just becomes part of the contract.
Yeah.
But for now, these are little addendums.
Yeah, and I further discussed this. I told John, yeah, we should, him and myself feel that it should be in writing somewhere, because like John had said, it was assumed, it was always done past practice. It should be in writing. It's not specifically addressed in the current contract. By doing this, we do address it, and there's no issues with misunderstanding then, so.
And I'm
then-
perfectly comfortable with it being performance-based, meaning if I don't do a good job, I don't get it.
And furthermore, if John is, if he's renewed in 4 years or 3 years, whatever it's up, these letters of understanding would be incorporated into the new agreement.
I agree.
And this would be the third letter of understanding. The first was the change of the performance evaluation form itself that you have gone through one time. And the second was the carryover of unused vacation, because I don't have a sick bank. I only have paid time off. And I think that's gonna work out just fine. No issues with 6 months into the new year having leave from last year still on the books. I have plenty of reasons to take time off, not that I don't enjoy being here.
Through the chair, how will we go, I'd like to see this progress. Would that be something that the clerk and the supervisor and perhaps the treasurer would work on and come back to the board and move it along?
Well, we've got a
There's a motion.
letter right now that we can, it's in the packet
Okay,
that we put together.
okay.
As long as the attorney figures.
Is it being offered for our consideration?
It's basically, it states that if the manager gets an above, I think it's a good or above performance, he's entitled to the bonus that
Okay, so is a motion in order then?
it is.
So moved.
I'll support.
To approve it.
So I'll read the motion just so everyone,
You're gonna read the complete motion.
yeah, so the complete motion is to authorize the township supervisor and the township clerk to prepare and sign the contract addendum addressing the annual performance bonus for the township manager with legal support from the township attorney such that the manager is eligible for the same bonus as all their employees on an annual basis, but subject to a good or better performance evaluation.
Now, the letter of understanding that's attached will go along with the motion then too?
It will.
Okay.
Subject to the attorney's review.
Well, that's all in the motion though too.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yep. I just want that to be clear because he had not seen it before it came out in the packet.
And if it needs to be changed, I'm sure we can change it. Bring it back and change it if it's,
Do we need
You
a
want a roll
roll
call?
call on a letter?
No.
We don't?
no. I mean, we can do it, it's probably safer to do it that way.
Yeah.
Do we have, you've got a letter of understanding, you also got the manager's signature required. Do we have to do that in the motion at all?
Well, he's gotta sign it.
I know he has to sign it. Do we have to call attention to that at all?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So we'll do it as a roll call vote. Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue,
Yes?
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
I was gonna say no, but I didn't wanna scare him. Not like one no would matter anyway.
You would have been overruled. But now I know where you stand.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I helped you with this, remember?
You did.
Okay, consider draft of updated personnel policies and procedures manual. So, do me a favor, just say yes to this, 'cause I'm done looking at it.
Do we want comments or not?
No, absolutely, I'm just kidding. Yes. Go ahead, you got 2 pages of them. And you may have found, some spacing or something, once I got it
No,
done for the
nothing.
4th time.
Nothing like that. It's just
Okay.
that when I went through, I wrote down on pages that I found that had some questions on and that. So I have the pages down here and I have my questions on each page too, if you want to start going through that or you want to wait.
And I didn't
You
even
know, the
bring it.
plan was to give you a month to do that.
Yeah, yes.
I don't think we should.
I just got it
I
today.
think we should wait till next meeting. 'Cause
Can I make a motion that we add this to the next
You said I did
agenda?
all this today and
Yeah,
It's okay, Ernie, you're ahead of everyone.
Yeah.
I'll support that. And
Yeah.
also too, I would like to see with the updated performance policies or personnel policies and an updated procurement policy
Oh, that's a separate document, but yeah.
along with this.
Okay.
Because I think it's time that we update that and change it also.
Yeah, we were going to when we got this
Yeah.
done, but
Is
if
that-
you
is
want
that
But if
about
we can
s-
incorporate it all together, I think it'd be better.
So we can get rid of tires earlier?
Well, give
Yeah.
people a little bit more money to spend without board authorization, which we're kind of in the dark ages in some respects.
Well, the current purchasing policy we have has changes that were made that were never incorporated into the official document as well.
So
Same thing with the policies that we're talking about. Changes were made and they were never officially put into the document.
But they were approved.
The firearm policy, for instance, that's probably the single largest change to the version you have, not to discredit the editing that Lynn had to do with the formatting of the document, and I think that's probably a major headache, so I appreciate her efforts on it. And then we added one holiday this year, so that shows up in the list of observed holidays.
Jen?
He's keeping count, it's up to 10.
Get my
I don't
phone,
know.
But I'm not done with it all.
Anyway, it was a lot more work than the simple revisions that were required. Kudos to Lynn, again.
Appreciate it.
She's not gonna change her mind, so I don't care how many times you tell her
But
that.
this has already gone to Aaron Graves. It was all approved. I followed the motions and everything back in from 2008 to 2014. And Randy had it all spelled out. He had, and I've got it, and I'm gonna put it in the folder when we get finished with it, so that there's the background to it. So it's gone through legal. The firearms was added, but not to the document itself. It was just done as a separate item. It was approved by the board. The board approved it. It needs to go to the personnel committee, because it didn't get there. So,
Should go there.
does it,
before-
yeah, so maybe our next step is to send it to them first before even looking at it next time?
Yeah, and what I would like to do is make it a 2-item agenda. We have a reclassification for them to consider as well. So,
So that doesn't have to be scheduled through the board, right? They can do it themselves, or do we do that?
I would schedule it with them.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
if you want to just make a motion requesting this be presented to the Personnel Committee for review and comment before coming back, that's probably sufficient.
Then we maybe don't want to put it on the next agenda.
No, I would suggest Linda redo her motion to say that to send this to the Personnel Committee instead of next
Makes
agenda. And I will support
I
it.
amend the motion.
With the
With that.
procurement, though.
You can do the same thing if you want. Go through
How
there.
long is that, John?
It's
Is
not
it
very
like
long.
5
That's a
pages?
few page.
Okay, so I
Compared to
could
this one,
probably
it's
put that
pretty
together.
small. But there are issues in there regarding spending limits for department heads. We have to take a look at inflationary numbers since those numbers were set to make sure whatever we're proposing can be justified with real numbers. I don't want to say let's double it from 1,000 to 2,000 if inflation numbers only suggest 25% or 50%.
Okay.
But we also want it to be a reasonable number too, so they're not guessing, was it $1,125 or was it $1,500 or was it 2,000, whatever.
I
Okay.
thought we did that, I thought it was like 5,000 for department head.
We did, but
And that,
what
and then
he's
the
saying
manager
is-
went up to
10,000.
10,000, was it?
But what he's
Could be,
saying-
we just have to put those changes into the document and formally adopt it with the changes you already made.
We did it on board level, we approved that board level when it happened.
It wasn't changed. The
Oh,
same
okay,
thing
the
with this
document.
document. Yeah, it doesn't,
And
Okay.
of course, that was before my time, so just trying to keep everything above board so there's no surprises.
Okay.
Well, and I looked and I couldn't find the changes, so it's better off to change it and reaffirm it than.
Yeah, okay.
No,
I
that's-
agree with you, it's just that.
Okay.
Lynn,
So,
the other
yes.
thing on page 36 on the very top for expenses, I think that's outdated.
We did talk about
Yes,
that, Lynn, the
that's part
cost
of
of
it.
meals.
Yep.
Yeah.
Page
So,
36.
Same thing,
Yep.
look at inflation.
That's
and-
why it's in bold, if you notice. I singled it out, so we.
Oh, yeah, I got that down in my notes too.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said, that said big boy. Oh, okay.
Oh. Time to go home.
So the
Yes.
motion now is to have both documents go to the Personnel Committee
Yeah.
and authorize the manager to set it up.
Yeah,
Now we need to vote.
we need to vote, but.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I know what I'm writing. Include the procurement policies.
I'm not sure that the procurement policy goes to the Personnel Committee, though.
No.
No?
I don't have if it doesn't, well, I don't have a problem it going there. It doesn't probably have to go there, but at least they can look at it and recommend it before the board. It's not gonna hurt anything.
They can at least discuss in a smaller group the limits of purchasing power before the full board considers it, so that's not a bad idea.
Okay. And did you second it?
I did.
Okay, so you're all right with that. Anything else? John?
No, we're the,
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
So this is just coming to Personnel Committee and then from that to the board, so we're moving out of time for
Yeah.
some type.
Yeah, when the Personnel Committee reviews it, then we'll put it on the agenda after that. Okay. Planning Commission updates.
So the Planning Commission met on Wednesday, April 13th. We did a site plan review for a proposed restaurant bakery, and we did approve that request. We're still waiting to hear the name of the restaurant. We also talked about the capital improvement thing, and as I mentioned earlier, we really would like to get those capital improvement requests from the department heads by June, so we can be better prepared this year than we were last year.
Those actually come from the township manager. He directs the
So-
department heads.
And then they did meet with us last year, the department heads did meet with the planning commission. So however that process works, we would like that to start. In case no one's heard, we had at one time approved a mini golf course, and that's been canceled. And then we did get an update on the Ed Scott Memorial Recreation Area. The grant application was submitted. And we also had a short discussion on short-term rentals, and we'll be getting more education from our planner as he attends some events, some webinars about that. That's it.
Thanks. Okay, Roads Committee, I think you met, right, Pete?
Before I get to that, Lynn, on page 41, under responsibilities,
Okay,
I think under supervisors, recording time off, I think that should be department heads. That's not responsibility, shouldn't have.
I don't have any in there.
I
except
think
the last page.
it's a clarification where it's referring to the employee's immediate supervisor, but it only says supervisor, so it could be
It's
misinterpreted
funny,
as
because I
you,
went through
the
those,
township
and I
supervisor.
purposely put employees in there. So what page, 36?
41.
I think that table shows up in a couple of spots, if I remember right, Lynn, so maybe we'll just look at that and consider changing it to department head.
Employees is in there quite a bit, and then that's why I added it to be consistent, but we can change it to whatever. Okay, thanks, Pete.
All right.
If you have any more, let me know.
On roads that we discussed today in our meeting with the road committee, road
Commission.
commission. There's lots of things happening with Forestville Road, and also, we have to get on and get our road south program back online. The township, or the commission house, the road commission also has it. And it'd be interesting to see how they rated our road south program, their latest one, compared to what we have here, so.
They
We
said
just
they,
have to get ours going again.
they do it every 3 years, and this is
Yeah.
the year.
Yeah, so I have to get ours going and not, maybe have to hire somebody to help out and get that thing started. Instead of we're going farther and farther behind on it. But it was because of the change in employees and stuff like that. It's not an easy thing to just jump on and say, okay, here you go. It don't work that way.
That's, sorry, John.
This might be the right time to bring up a comment made by our ailing board member, Dan. He was concerned about not being aware of the Panama bread coming to the township. And he just wanted it mentioned that if we could find a way to communicate that to the board earlier. he
If
would
I
like-
may interject,
I had to
that's
ask
not
them
official.
to answer that.
That's not official, so wherever it came from, it did not come from township staff unless it was some unauthorized discussion.
Well,
Um,
the newspaper article said the planning commission approved.
But it
A
didn't.
site plan that was not brand specific.
Oh,
But the,
okay. Well, anyway.
As far as the
he's-
township's
he's
concerned, there's
about
no
it,
brand
and he'd like it-
associated with that site plan as of today.
yeah, it's not from us.
His biggest concern is that people in the community find out more things about what's going on than the board does, before the board does. So if there is a problem, to correct the problem, and, I don't want to say more.
In this
I
case,
can't
it
speak
wasn't
for the
us.
community what they say. They could tell you it's Olive Garden, and if we're told by the developer that there's no brand to be spoken of, I don't care if it's Olive Garden or not, we're not talking about brands until the developer says we're authorized to. We reviewed a site plan, period,
We're just
based
happy
on,
someone's coming.
based on the type of restaurant it's going to be. So we know it's not Chick-fil-A, meaning we need some sort of crazy traffic control out on the highway, right? Like they have in Green Bay. Yes, they have signs blocks away on the corners.
Randy?
Speaking of that, that'll go under your, probably under the policies for information flow. And again, you gotta realize, the trustees have to realize that that's something that, they might not be privy to in their role as a trustee. Because it's, anytime a business or anything comes into this community, a lot of times I don't know until they officially say what's gonna happen. And we gotta realize as township board members, we can't officially say things that we don't know.
Developers want to announce their projects.
Yes.
And just, they're not gonna announce them through us always.
No, and, yeah, and I've read things like Dan had, I see it all over social media, but that doesn't say that that business is gonna be officially here until they came and announced it. So, and it's,
It's not Cracker Barrel either, so it's
The official information is what was in the site plan that was approved by the planning commission, and that is not brand specific.
yeah, so if people are spouting out there, it's gonna be whatever
I
business
believe
X.
it's bakery or bakery cafe or something like that.
If it's business X coming in, I'm telling people, I don't know until they officially say. I mean, it's nice they're coming in, but I don't care really myself. But
Ernie?
Talking about that, I think, planning commission meeting had one on Wednesday, and I had Kiwanis meeting on Thursday. And that was up in Ishpeming, the senior one. You'd be surprised how many names come up as to what it was going to be. I said, I don't have any idea, you got enough, but all I know is what I heard. And they had names that were unbelievable of what was coming in and that, and I just sat back and listened to them, and it's like that out in the community too. So, it's interesting to sit back and be able to just kind of listen and that.
Well, developers have multiple franchises, and maybe they don't decide until the last minute, you know, they're gonna change something.
unfortunately, we live in an age of instant communication. And it's like Tom Brady. Someone announced he was retiring before he officially himself announced it, and now he's not retired. So people have to be careful when they announce things, because then their credibility comes on the line, especially some of these websites that are posting it's gonna be business X, and it could be business A, and it's gonna say, well, where's their credibility now? They've just announced as business and it's something totally different, so. I just think that's the dangers of the information age we live in. People are shooting from the hip what it is, which it might not be.
And for instant gratification.
Yep. Okay, events committee? Or, pardon me. Anybody wanna share anything?
You got a car show coming up. I don't have something,
Father's Day?
Saturday of Father's Day weekend.
Father's Day weekend, yes. At the Westwood Mall parking lot.
Ernie, go ahead.
Now, here again, I got information that the events committee, Pete doesn't even know about yet. I was at the Township Business Association today, and Todd Nordock was there, and made a big pitch for dollars for the community days, to get the kids, or whatever you want to call it, not the bouncy, but the
Inflatables.
inflatables. And the Business Association authorized $1,000 towards that activity and that. So, that's coming. There's more to that, but I'm not gonna go into anymore.
So who does that come to?
The events committee, I guess.
Township.
The events committee has no authority to spend money without township board approval.
But
And that has
actually,
to go through me anyway.
I'll go a step further. How do I put this?
The check should come to the township.
No, it's
To
not
offs-
going to the township. The bill is gonna go to the business association
from,
from whatever company it is for the inflatables. Now, you figure out how that's gonna work. I don't, I'm just sitting back there listening and that.
It don't work that way.
No.
All right,
I,
all right. We'll iron that out.
Yes.
Okay.
My notes say tonight that I ask you, we need to get bylaws for that organization. We need to establish parameters of the events committee. And I want to do it sooner than later, before we get through the rest of this year. Because things like this are happening without the board knowing what's going on or approving it.
and I'm sitting as a board member and I can't really say anything at this point in time, one way or another, in that too, so.
So,
There was no request for money for that.
Well, all I'm telling you is what happened.
yeah, we need to know what happens at every one of those meetings.
I will say,
That's-
you're right.
That's why you're there. We
Yeah.
need to have that report.
I think we should just pass on, Lynn, on this one, right now.
We need to, as a board, decide how we're gonna structure that committee. And if we're not going to, then tell me that.
Then we have to construct every committee.
They're all constructed, they all have bylaws,
Except that one.
yes. We've got a rogue committee, I don't like it.
It's not the road committee.
Well, I think now
put a
that I brought
G
it
in
up,
there.
we can now move forward on
Thanks,
that.
Ernie.
No,
Thank
it's
you,
on my
Ernie.
notes,
Yeah.
it's on my
I could've
notes.
sat here and been quiet and just went home and had something to eat.
It wouldn't have mattered, you could finish your
You're not
sandwich
gonna get no
here.
cookies from me, I'll tell you
I
that.
wanna know how to organize the bylaws, how are we gonna do this, John? Roger?
well,
Want me to type
bylaws,
something up? Cause I will.
bylaws should be pretty easy because we have them for so many other
Right.
committees already.
Right.
I
So-
think we can put a draft together and figure out how we need to tweak it to the needs of this committee. But I think you all also know that this is a sensitive subject with me. So,
I'll do it then.
well, I don't want
No,
to
you
keep
don't.
heaping stuff on you. This is
John
part of
can do
my
it.
It's
job.
on my notes to get this done. I want it
Well,
done.
just know that I'm gonna be,
He's gonna do it.
I'm gonna tiptoe through some of the tulips in spots.
Yep, that's fine. All right, I'll use one of the other formats and we'll bring it to you and we'll get legal approval and you guys decide how we're gonna do this, okay?
I think our attorney has actually been very helpful in the past on these two, so
Yeah.
he's always a resource.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Linda.
So I have a question. How do people get to use the township logo on marketing advertising material? Is there a policy about using, I belong to some national organizations and we have a policy about how they can use our logo, but we don't have anything today.
If a policy exists regarding that, I'm not aware of it, but I will say there are more policies here than I've seen. So it's possible it exists, I just can't tell you whether or not it
Okay.
does.
All right.
I've never heard about it, so.
Well, this is the reason you want to have something written, is because if people can copy your logo, they can post it anywhere. And you do want to have some kind of
Protection?
protection. I mean, you need to have something. I can't believe the city of Marquette. Well, that's maybe a poor choice. I can't
Roger, is there
believe.
anything like that out there? Any language anywhere protecting the township?
You mean, do we have any now?
No, is there any out there?
Oh, sure.
We don't
you
have
can-
it.
You can always create a policy to
Well,
that
no,
effect,
that
and the
costs a lot of
question is
money.
enforceability in terms of if there are unscrupulous people that want to confiscate your image or whatever the case may be, that, I don't know that a policy is going to prevent that, so you still have to have some intelligent monitoring of what's out there, but a policy could easily be put together on something like
Okay.
that, yes.
We may not even need it in the case that I think we're referring to, in that, and maybe it's not specific, but I know I've seen it on flyers recently for events that the township board did not agree to support. The first time it happened, there was a thought that the township board would support it, and the board did not. But then it showed up again the second time where the organizers of that event chose to keep the township logo on the flyer to give us credit where it wasn't due, at least that's my belief.
That's what they said at the meeting, the last time they were here, yes. That's what I was gonna say.
So the question is, well, maybe it doesn't need to go into the bylaws that we're talking about, but if it's important enough, we can create a policy. That's what your job is, right?
Yep.
And staff is here to write it for
Hands the
you,
big bucks, yep.
and you can critique it.
And the reason it was on there is to promote Marquette Township to be aggressive and stuff like that. That's the reason it's on there.
Yep.
There are many reasons why people put things on marketing materials. I think you need to make sure that you're protecting your community from things being put where they don't belong. And,
This is a good step.
yes, I think that you need to be careful with that.
Okay, it's on my list. Public comment. Do you want to share any thoughts? Ask any questions? You're welcome. Thanks for staying. It's interesting, isn't it? Any announcements from anybody?
We gotta have the review of the motions.
That's after
That's down
manager's report.
I thought we already had management.
No, that was just him talking. Go ahead. Randy?
All right, so from the clerk's office, we will be open Saturday, April 30th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. to receive or give out any absentee ballots for the May 3rd school election, or May 2nd, I can't remember.
May 2nd.
May 2nd. And the last day we can mail out absentee ballots is Friday, April 29th. And if you come into the office on Monday, May 1st, you can get an absentee ballot, but you cannot leave the building. And we will take absentee ballots up to 8 o'clock on election day. And after that, they're no longer valid. And election days, May 2nd, polls will open at 7 a.m., close at 8 p.m. And you will be getting sometime in May or early June, a new voter registration card that will basically set the commissioner district as Commission District 3. The whole township will be in Commission District 3. So it'll state that.
So the election's the 3rd,
Third.
not the
third,
2nd.
The 3rd, okay.
Yes, because our meeting's gonna move to the 4th.
Okay, the 3rd.
Scared me.
I didn't think that sounded right, but
It's the first Tuesday after the first Monday in May, so that's May 3rd, yep.
good. And you'll have a new helper, hey, a new employee to
Yeah, we're gonna
help you.
break in my assistant clerk on the election, and this is actually a good one to do it because it's pretty light and not really, shouldn't take us that long to wrap it up, so.
Good deal. Okay, now the manager's report. Did you have questions?
No,
Okay. Take it away, John.
talked enough.
We have actually discussed most of it already through the course of the meeting, but there is one thing we have not specifically discussed, and that's our first annual reporting of ARPA fund expenditures. That has been submitted before the end of the month deadline, and we did choose the standard, I'm gonna get the word wrong, allowance for revenue loss, meaning anything up to 10 million, we can report as revenue loss. That makes the money as flexible to spend as any of the options we have. That being said, I believe this township board intends to continue to follow its purchasing policies for however we spend it, so we should be covered either way. That's all. We've met our first reporting requirement, and we chose the most flexible option for how we spend the money.
Anything for the manager?
I have one question. On that new piece of equipment for the public works, that hydro excavator, whatever it is, excavator, we had talked about making it available to other townships at some point in time. on a cost basis in that.
If there's anything left to it as we're approaching the end of our need for that equipment, and I'm assuming it'll have plenty of life left, I would think that we should already have agreements in place with Negaunee Township or whoever, that be where we go next with it, unless Marquette Township has another immediate need for it. This piece of equipment is very versatile for our Public Works Department. It can be used for sewer cleaning or a host of other things, so. Negaunee Township, I say specifically because they had suggested that as a possibility. I should note, Lenny and I were on that UP Waterworks conference virtually today, and Matt Trito, who we've worked with on other projects, did a presentation there that talks about the cost of these lead service line verifications we have to do. And he estimated a community of our size would have to spend upwards of $300,000 to conduct this work. We spent $100,000 on a piece of equipment, and now we have to cover the rest with our own workforce. If we do it less than $200,000, we're beating his estimate. So,
Well, and that you guys said that right up front, that this would pay for itself, like the first time we used it.
right, and we had gotten a number directly from a contractor that would do that work, a budget number, and this was the cheaper option. So to answer your question, if it's makes sense to do it, we will pursue it.
It had been talked about, that's why I brought it up.
Yep.
Anybody else for John? Okay, now we can review the motions.
Okay, consent agenda was approved. The regular agenda was approved as presented. The DPW structural improvement proposal, which was the third motion, was approved. The OHM water demand analysis proposal, which was the fourth motion, was approved. The fifth motion was the Raftellus water supply evaluation study proposal. That was approved. Sixth motion was to approve the COLA from North Country Disposal. That was approved. Seventh motion was to approve the tire disposal. That was approved. The eighth motion was to schedule a special meeting for discussion of anticipated revenue, May 11th at 5 p.m. That was approved. The ninth motion was to approve the letter of understanding regarding the township manager contract in regards to the performance bonus, and that was approved by roll call vote. The 10th motion was to approve to send the draft of the personnel policies and procedures manual and procurement policy to the personnel committee for their approval, and that motion was approved, and that was it.
Just have a quick, sending that to the personnel committee for their approval or their review?
Well, review. Well, yeah, because you can't approve it. But it's gonna be, you'll be a review, yeah,
Recommendation that they make
for a review. And that's the 10th motion.
anyway. Great, thank you. So for right now, we may, for the next agenda, may have to schedule the special meeting for the resolution that Lenny needs on the grant request. As far as I know, that's it so far.
Do a special meeting for the, what is that, DWRF, John, or is it SRF?
I think the public hearing was for SRF, but I wouldn't tell you for sure. I can't remember without having the email open in front of me.
I'm just gonna say SRF, public hearing and resolution approval.
Any comments from the board? Linda?
It was good to have a joint meeting with the Marquette County Road Commission this evening. Upon the discussion, I'm wondering how we move forward with a letter that they expressed we would need to send them regarding the signage and the passing on Ontario and labeling the bike lane. So I'm not quite sure how that happens.
Okay. come to
Yeah,
the
we
planning
can
commission, maybe.
But we can put it on the next agenda. Yeah, some of them. John, what were you gonna say?
The Wright Street pavement markings, I think, could go to the roads committee. And, well, actually
Maybe
both.
both.
Wright Street and Ontario should start there.
We can
They can make a recommendation to the board to consider.
hopefully get that done before summer biking starts for our community.
Yeah, that might be a little late because we're actually getting there, but the change to the pavement markings probably won't happen that quick anyway, because you'd have to wait until a contractor is in town doing that kind of work. And we have to send the request to the road commission. They have to agree to it because it's a political decision, right? So.
But at
it'll
least
take a
get
little
it
time.
started.
The quicker we go, the better.
Yeah, the
right?
better, the better.
Wright Street in Ontario. Wright Street, of course, being the remainder of Old Wright Street,
Thank you.
492 to 41 at Discount Tire.
Any other comments? Remember, our next board meeting is not till Wednesday, May 4th,
Yeah.
6:30.
Because of the election, special election on May 3rd. So I'll move to adjourn then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
8:17, we are adjourned.